And so when I'm coaching people and they show up in victim of like being late and they want to blame traffic, or they want to blame their phone being dead, or they want to blame the results on their partners or things like that. Well, what level of responsibility are you showing up in right now? Are you in 1, 2, 3, 4? And ask, okay, well, what's in the gap of you shifting your responsibility? And there's a lot of traumas and there's a lot of things that we've gone through, or where we get to grow into and pass the sea of, the fear of responsibility. What level of responsibility do we need to shift into to source those mega deals and to have those assets that are in our vision?
Welcome to The Lion's Den, the real estate podcast for perspicacious investors who know they have the strength to succeed in the lucrative commercial multifamily industry. Gain expert advice on your way to becoming a top performer. I'm your host, Adam Parrish. I have my 3 co-hosts today, Lisa Parrish, Donato Callahan, and Fia Mosley. How are you 3 doing?
Amazing.
And we have a special guest today who is a multifamily syndicator, Bunny Wilford.
Hi,
how are you
everybody.
doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm great, thanks.
Okay, Bunny, you want to introduce yourself real quickly?
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Bunny Wilford. I am a mom, a wife. I'm a Navy veteran. And right before doing multifamily syndication, I was doing mindset and transformative coaching. I'm also a spiritual practitioner healer. So actually, while I was coaching one of the clients, I was like, what is so big and what is so outside of yourself that you wanted to do and that you haven't done up until now? And that's when I realized that I was playing small and I really wanted to get in multifamily real estate. And so now I'm doing acquisitions and asset management in the multifamily space.
Awesome. And the word of the day is brought to you by Bunny Wilford.
It is gratitude. I believe gratitude is the beginning of all manifestations. And since we're heading into the spring solstice and Easter for people who practice religion, I think it's really important to be in setting the intention and being in the energy of gratitude. And I'm really grateful to get to be a part of this podcast today. So thank you very much.
Yep, thank you for coming on.
You're welcome.
Okay, and the obstacle of today's episode: do you have the mindset for multifamily real estate? The first question I'll ask for today is for Bunny Wilford. How can the be, do, have mindset be applied to multifamily real estate investing?
Well, that's a good question. So I think that the be, do, have model mindset from Ram Dass, who is a spiritual practitioner and psychologist, he actually created and put it out on paper, is the most appropriate mindset to have in any endeavor that you want to create, because traditionally we're taught, or what's modeled for us is do, have, be. I got to do this so I can have this so I can be happy. Or once I have this, then I'll get to be happy and I can do what I want, right? So it's a shift in the mindset that typically we're not modeled, that our parents don't model for us. They think that they have to be this profession and work really hard so that they can be happy. And it often leads to the opposite effects, right? We wear ourselves down, we work ourselves to death, we get sick. And at the end of it, we don't ultimately create the life that we want. So the be, do, have model, this is something that I used while coaching clients. Neurolinguistic practitioners also use that. I'm also trained in that model as well. And so basically it's identifying the ways of being that this role, this person, this profession, the professionals, how they show up, how are they being to create the results that they're creating?
Mm-hmm.
And shifting into that. Some people say fake it till you make it, right? But each individual gets to identify what is lacking in their own way of being. For some people, it might be, they're not really committed to getting behind the computer every day to look for deals, They're not really committed to reach out to brokers. Maybe they're not, being extroverted and being out there and really presenting themselves in a certain way that creates that relationships where people get to see them and want to work with them. So identifying what our gaps are. Are we playing small? Are we hiding? Do we get to be courageous? Because it can be scary, right? Shifting into something new that we don't really know, and that imposter syndrome kicks in, and courage is acting in spite of fear, acting with fear, using that fear and still proceeding forward towards your vision. So the state of being that we're in, and noticing, like, I'm being a little lazy today. Is this going to help me get to my vision? Probably not. So I get to be rigorous in my commitment. I get to be in integrity with my word that I'm going to reach out to so many brokers, or I'm going to connect with my investors, or I'm going to go to 2 or 3 networking events a week. Your being is how it starts for everything in every profession. And one of the first obstacles that I often come across when coaching a new client is the disconnection between the doing and the being. Sometimes I'll ask a client, how are you being? And they won't even really be able to name a way of being. They'll actually, I'm like, okay, especially if they're an analyzer personality or an operating style, they'll have to actually look up ways of being, because they don't, you just think about the doing. So that's, I think, how the be, do, have will start. And then the doing, right? So you have to ask yourself, how am I being? And then shift into, I get to take action, I get to be committed, or whatever, so that you can do the thing, so that you can have what you want to have. And that's how I think that the be, do, have model is efficient and always in all professions.
Okay, excellent stuff. Riveting.
Riveting. That needs to be the word of the day.
Yeah.
Are we using other forms of the word gratitude? Can I say grateful, and will that still count, or I have to say gratitude?
Yeah. No, you can use other terms.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thankful.
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know. I want to score points. I'm not done one the last couple weeks.
Competition,
Yeah.
Wait, Bunny, did you say your own word?
Grateful, gratitude.
Gratitude.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did.
Gratitude.
Yeah. Focus on going to gratitude. When I notice where I'm hitting a lot of roadblocks in my life, or where things seem to be a little bit more challenging than I would like, as in most recently, in all authenticity, most recently, I've been noticing there's a lot of resistance. There's been a lot of frustration. There's been a lot of challenges. And what I did is I asked myself, well, how am I being? I haven't been really grateful lately at all. I've been frustrated. I've been I call it nerdy, but in my ego, just kind of I could be doing better, or maybe I'm not doing enough, and just I'm self beat up. And one of the most powerful things that I can say of a way of being is shifting into gratitude, noticing, how am I being, and is this serving me? Is this going to get me where I need to be? And typically it's not, because it's an ego base, right? So I'll shift into, okay, what am I grateful for? Because energetically, when you're at a frequency of gratitude, I believe, or I know to be true, that the universe, I think somebody called it Gus, God, universe, and source. The other day, one of my coach friends, she called it Gus. And I was like, I like that. It's a combination of concepts, right? So what I have experienced to be true in my life is when I shift into gratitude, and I'm grateful for the things that I already have, and grateful for the things that I would like to receive more of, it shifts right into my experience. And I magnetically attract that into my life. So gratitude to me is the first foundation of a way of being. And so that's why I wanted that to be the word for today. I really wanted to shift myself, my energy mainly, and to do so in integrity with my word, and holding myself accountable and responsible to share that with you guys today, that I am shifting my way of being to be into gratitude this week. So
I think it's an important word to have on.
100%.
Okay, then I'm going to ask a quick question for Fia. How can positive relationships contribute to the success of a multifamily real estate investment?
Yeah, Yeah, this is I think mindset, like just that is hard, because there's so many angles you can talk about it. So, you know, like she's saying, when you're getting started in something, are you just doing, going out, doing all this busy work, running yourself into the ground and in because all your external circumstances come from the internal. Like if you feel like a victim in some area of your life, how are you going to go out there and create a company and move forward and be productive and accomplish what you want to accomplish when you've got stuff in your life that you're blaming other people for? And I think that was a big thing for me. I was a victim as a child. I carried that into my adulthood. And then, at times I'm sure I've carried that well, I don't know. I've carried that into my partnership, because you get defensive about things. And in this business, a lot of times you're coming together with strangers, basically, like our team. I mean, I had met Donato prior a while, but it wasn't like we hung out all the time. I saw him periodically. We had great conversations, and there was something about his energy. He is highly intelligent. I didn't know that at the time. At the time, it was just like, oh, this young guy has got really great energy. And I think that's where, even in business, we go wrong. We go telling people all the things we can do, and they don't care about that. They care about who you actually are as a person and what's really, as Napoleon Hill says, your definite purpose. It's not a Ferrari is not a definite purpose in life. I mean, wouldn't complain or anything. Actually, I'd probably sell it and do something useful with that money personally. But, and then when you get into a team with strangers, I think the two biggest words are pride and humility. It is, the one thing that will trip you up and you can't do this business without partners. So first, you have your team that you work with regularly, which you are going to disagree with. And that's a pride thing. Like, oh, my idea is better than yours, and or whatever. Maybe you're not saying that, but when you're arguing, it's really you're arguing over preferences, like how people prefer to do things. And then, you may have someone come in, sponsors, people raising money, other partners, whatever it is. And my big thing, and this also comes from Napoleon Hill, I'm a big fan of his work, is he talks about successful people make fast decisions. Well, I know that I know right away. Like if we were just meeting the five of us on Zoom, the first initial feeling I have about all of you guys is the right one. Not after I talk myself into liking people because it's the right societal thing to do. And it doesn't always mean you like them or you don't like them. It means it's not a good energetic match right now. And every time, as a company, as a team, when we make a decision that is against that initial gut reaction, it goes the way we think it's going to go because we already knew, because we do have that inside of us in our being to feel people's energy. And so I think, yeah, you have to check yourself. Pride is not being open to other people's ideas. Pride is, wanting to prove your point and be right. And we've hit all of that in the past, and we've worked through things like that when something came up and it was like, I'm right, or whatever. I'm sure that's not how the conversation went, but you know what I mean? You get the idea. So as a team, it's really, are you an energetic match? Do you, feel can you work through things? And humility, I think, is the biggest thing, really, which kind of stems from gratitude. Like one thing I can say after working it was about a year and a half with Donato, Quinn, and all the rest of the guys, I found myself more grateful because I had seen all the things that they had done than when we started, and I didn't really know him that well, which is probably why, at times, not a lot, but at the beginning there was a few bumping heads. But then I knew him more. I saw what they had done. I saw the other thing about a team too is everything starts from intention. That's what moves energy in a certain direction. And I feel like with our team and Lisa and Adam as well, that the intention behind everything was for everyone. It wasn't like, all right, well, now let me see what I can do to benefit myself using these 5 people or 7 or 8 or, however many we we ended up with a family of
10.
people, but yeah, 10 altogether, but it's that intention behind it. And have always felt the same way from Donato, to be honest. Like, not going to mention every single person on our team, but like, I never thought, oh, this guy has motivations to just benefit himself, and that's it, basically. I know, long story, sorry. Trying to make it shorter.
And I like the shout out of
There's-
Napoleon Hill. If we're looking for another book of the month, since we're into April now, Think and Grow Rich is a good one.
Not my
Yeah.
favorite of his, though. Success Habits and Own Your Own Mind, I think, are way better, to be honest. But
Yeah.
Think and Grow Rich kicks a lot of us off on a spiritual journey into the subconscious mind. It
That was
really
my
did. Yeah.
Right, me too. That was my first one that I ever read, my first business book that opened my eyes to, oh, I don't have to work for a boss.
Well, and
That
it's
was
that
just-
it's in here, and imagination and visualization, like
Mhm.
Thomas Edison and all these other people. It all started with a picture in their head. Actually, now that I've said that, I'm curious, Donato, like with the whole bright investor thing, did you have like a thing pop up in your head, like this idea, or anything like that?
Like where the idea came from?
Well, with Bright Investor, like I think sometimes I've noticed some of the best stuff. I'm like at the gym or I'm doing something else and some idea pops in my head and it just happens to be really productive for our team. So how did that like kind of come for you?
Yeah, Bright Investor came from senior year when I was in college and I was running the wholesaling company. And I knew that I was moving to St. Louis, and everyone had told me, if you're going to start in real estate, start with a house hack. And at the time, I was taking my senior GIS class, which is all about taking data and putting it on a map and making it easy to understand. And I was spending so many hours over and over and over again just looking into real estate, researching and underwriting, looking for properties. And I was also spending all this time learning about maps and how to display information. I was like, well, I have this one thing. I have this other thing. What if I just did this? And put those things together. And so I made my senior project a visualization of real estate data for the city of St. Louis. And I was playing with those prototypes and building out those things. I ended up meeting my co-founder, and he ended up having the same idea from a completely different source. He had met someone really well known in real estate world who made a comment that there's really nothing that serves this demographic for this population for who need these answers. So he started tinkering with the idea. And so even though this idea sprouted from two different gardens, we ended up growing together and just recognized the potential in each other for the business.
Yeah, imagination, I really feel like there's things that pop into our head when we're not sitting there trying to do. Like, I personally practice meditation, and what I found is a lot of times throughout the day, especially if I went from there to the gym, so your mind is on something else and my body's moving, like I would just turn on my video camera and make videos because it was like that idea would just pop in my head. So a lot of the times it does have to do with quieting the busyness, which is the doer. Like, do, you got to, and you know what? We have no problem with that. We promote that in our world. It's all about hustle, grind, and run yourself into the ground. So this is like a totally like opposite. I really had to learn a lot about the subconscious mind and shifting into this way of thinking. It's definitely not something that comes natural, and how we feel about money and about business comes from our childhood and the subconscious. And if you never deal with that, you stay in the same salary bracket every year. So you got to shift your emotions behind it. And most people aren't even thinking about that. Like, oh, well, let me think. The one example I had of money or somebody that was ambitious to make a lot of money in my life was my father, who was a very violent man. Like, how do you think I really subconsciously feel about making a lot of money? It's connected with violence. So, there's a lot of stuff I think we don't realize that's holding us back from our potential in making money and having that beautiful life we want.
I totally agree with my best ideas come when I'm meditating or if I'm getting a massage. I come up with all these things and then the rest of the massage, I'm thinking I have to remember this and I have to remember that. I wish that I need to have a little recorder there while I'm doing it, while I'm getting a massage, because all of a sudden all these ideas come to me. So
I'd
Yeah.
like to speak into that, if I can really briefly. So from what I know from the energy practices and my spiritual practices and studies is that the doing is the masculine energy. Yeah, this place is the masculine energy. The Maya, the physical world, the material is of a masculine energy. We're doing. And the feminine energy is the spirit of creation and intuition. And so to allow yourself to birth an idea, you need to have both energies. So if we're constantly in our masculine energy of the doing and the doing and the doing, and we don't work on a spiritual practice where we connect with ourselves through like meditation, physical activity, breath work, that's why working out does it. It's that breathing that creates the duality, the marriage of the feminine and the masculine to allow the birth of creation. Same thing with human reproduction. You need a man and a woman. I don't, that's a topic today, but you need two, you need two people, right? You need to, certain
I think
things.
you still do.
Yeah, maybe for a while, right? Till they have pods and we're all Borg. So you need those two. And so when you can marry that balance of feminine and the masculine and the doing and the spiritual and the connection, then we can create into this world and get those blessings from source, from God. Those are our higher selves. So that's God blessing us in the abundance and showing us through the gratitude that we have been giving those rewards that we can manifest and bring and birth into this experience to serve, ourselves and the world around us too. So that's something that came to me while I was skating, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I was listening to this podcast called Universe the Game. I just want to throw that out there. It's a really fantastic podcast, talks about all kinds of different things. And so, yeah, I just wanted to share with you why that is and how that works and how to use that and to find that balance between the two. And right now, like this whole year, I've been out of balance. So getting back into that balance of the both, and it doesn't need to be either or. And I think a lot of people, and myself included, it's one or the other. It's black or white. I got to do this before I, what I'm saying? Again, it's that be, do, have, which, speaking of books, what is it? 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That's a book that talks about the be, do, have model as well.
And I'll also add on and agree with the gym being so important with ideas. It was on a road trip back from the gym when I had the volition to start this podcast, and after listening to a podcast while I was at the gym.
Yeah, I don't think we're meant to be sitting down for probably not even 4 hours. So forget about 8 or 10 hours a day. I mean, look at it's breaking people down so much. It really is. But
I was watching this guy on Instagram, it's Human Garage, I think is his Instagram, and he does like fascia release and all of that. And he speaks into that. We're not supposed to sit. We're supposed to squat. We're supposed to squat. That actually creates
hopefully
and
not for 8
everything.
hours a day.
And I mean, could you imagine?
Comfortable.
But could you imagine like sitting on a Zoom, like squatting guy is like, but that's what's most, ergonomically correct. And I just thought that was fascinating. I was like, I can barely squat for a couple seconds. Yeah.
Then I got next question for Donato. How can having a clear vision of a multifamily real estate investment strategy help investors make informed decisions?
Clear vision is of the utmost importance when starting really any venture, whether it's multifamily or even your life, or whether you're going on a road trip, right? It's kind of like when you're on a ship and you're at the wheel. You can spin it left and right. It doesn't really matter which direction you spin the ship if you don't know your destination. You don't know where you're trying to get to. It's just, I can make little tweaks and I can end up going in circles, and I'm going really fast. I'm getting there. I'm sailing right in a circle because I don't have a destination. So establishing a vision, a clear-cut understanding of where you're trying to go, not just where you're trying to go, what that looks like, and then a deeper level of why that's important to me to get there, can help define the type of vision that will not only be economically successful in a business sense successful, but also end up be fulfilling for you by the time you arrive there. So you can enjoy that journey as you get to that destination. So without vision, you're just running in circles, and with it, you can run to the ends of the earth and have an amazing time while doing it.
Yeah, being that this is geared towards, newer people getting into this industry, and this is more complicated. There's more things and people involved to make a deal. That I think that is a big struggle, is the clear vision, because you only learn so much. And then like, okay, well, what are the practical steps? So you might, like, your vision might be wanting to have 2,000 units. Is that enough of a vision? I don't know. But then it's like, if you don't really understand what the steps are to get there either, I think that trips up a lot of people, you know, what the beginning steps are really practically.
And when it comes to multifamily as well, if you talk to new students or people who are getting into the game for the first time and ask them, why are you here? Why are you doing multifamily? If you want to make a lot of money. Okay, well, you could go get like some white collar job and work in tech, make a lot of money. And you do 8 hours a day. There's no afternoon phone calls or meetings or stress of having to call contractors. You can make money that way. Why not do that? Say, well, I don't want to do that. I want to do this. Okay, well, why? Well, I want to make a lot of money and I want to don't have a boss. Okay, so you want the independence. So you don't want to be the boss. You understand you have to work twice as much as you would without a boss. And they say, okay, well, I don't want to do that. Okay, well, why are you here? And so I find that asking the questions around what is it specifically about the avenue towards wealth that you're selecting that satisfies you? What is it? And if you can't define that, it could be the people, it could be the product, it could be the education, it could be a litany of things
It
on
needs
why
to be
multifamily.
emotional too. There has to be
Yeah,
emotion behind it, so that when things get tough, you're not even going to think about quitting. If it's about your kids or
exactly.
your family or your mother, mine was about my kids and my mother. You don't quit on that.
Yeah,
As the
yeah,
as the
definite
rock,
mental
yeah,
purpose, right? Like we were saying. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
very good. It's
Yeah.
like the Rock says, it's about drive, it's about passion. He has a whole song on it. We stay hungry, we devour, right? You gotta have, because at some point you're gonna have a massive boulder that just knocks you down, just hit your head on it, you fall down, and if you don't have that internal fire, that you can look at and say, this is why I'm actually doing this, you'll walk off the path, you'll never get back on it. You have
Yeah.
to have that internal drive, that internal, really that why, right? Simon Sinek, Start With Why. It's the book about the whole three little word, why. You need to understand why you're here and why specifically. So I'll ask people almost annoyingly that when I meet new people, I'll say too much. I'll say, why are you here? Or why are you in multifamily? And so I'm making money. It's like, okay, well, why do you want to make money? So I can, leave my job. Okay, why do you want to leave your job? And I will keep asking over and over again. I want to get to that core piece. What is inside your heart that you're trying to achieve? What are you trying to get at? And if I think there's some type of psychological study that was some long time ago. I learned about at some point. I can't name it right now, but they spoke about how when you ask somebody why, like at least like 5 or 6 times,
I've read that
just
too. Yeah.
yeah, what I'm talking about? Yeah, somebody's why, why.
Yep.
After 5 or 6 times, you'll finally get to the real
To
reason
the core.
they're
Yep.
doing something, the core, and that can manifest in so many ways. So I love asking people, why are you doing multifamily? So I can make money. Why do you want to make money? So I can be with my family. Why do you want to be with your family? Because I didn't get to be around my family when I was a kid. Okay. Why did I get to be around the family when they were kids? Because my parents were always working and never got time. Okay. And so you just get further and further and further down. You have this revelation of, oh, wow, I'm doing this thing because of how I felt when I was 10 years old and my parents weren't around. And acknowledging that you've had this massive journey before now that's gotten you to where you are.
Which is so much
That's
more
the fun
emotional than
part.
just saying money.
Mhm.
Because I mean, we made money,
Exactly.
and I've said in my story, we've made money, and that's not emotional. I thought that it was going to be like, oh, this is it. And I made money, and I was like, okay, this is it.
Yeah.
And then then I bought my mom a house. That was it.
That's
Then I,
Right.
or doing whatever I can for my kids or helping helping students or whatever. That's when I actually realized that that's what it was about. And I think
Yeah.
we're all a little confused on that at the beginning because we're, busy and focused and distracted and everything else.
Mhm.
Yeah, the common answer is freedom. And I will tell you I learned this. I mean, it wasn't something I knew at first because I, got in kind of hearing what everybody else hears about multifamily. So the big common answer is freedom. Now, are you going to have more freedom than you would if you were working a regular job? Like the workload is tremendous in this business. And I think we just don't talk about
Well, the
that.
freedom comes after success. Like
Mm.
we have the freedom because we've been doing this 15 years. It didn't happen at the beginning. For years and years and years, we worked our butts off way more than everyone else. Way more. So you don't get freedom just all of a sudden because you're in multifamily. You have to earn it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. But it's also, we don't have freedom either if we run our bodies into the ground. Believe me, I've been in my house for like 6
Very
weeks.
true.
Okay. That's not freedom.
Yes,
So,
You're-
that's where
you're
that
so- you're
balance
there's
so
comes
that
right.
from.
aspect of,
Yeah.
if you don't have any balance in your life, then you may accomplish those things, but you're
And
not
you
gonna
guys
have
know
any
my
freedom.
story.
Your
I
body
had no
doesn't
balance.
function.
Hmm.
Which
I had
circles
no
back to
balance for so long.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
circles back to what I was presencing earlier, was what I'm at the beginning stages too of recognizing, acknowledging, and because I admire you so much, Lisa, you have already impacted my journey with your story, that what you have shared with me personally, and and Fia and I, we've come together, and now we're building this relationship where we're kind of running parallel with each other in that regard. And so if anybody out there listens and hears me now, like, make sure you find time to balance the things of self-care, fitness, eating healthy, food is medicine, spiritual practice, whatever that looks like for you. Because money isn't everything. Money is energy, and money flows where energy goes. So, being in urgency versus desperation, and, it's all going to work itself out, but you're not going to get there if you kill yourself.
That's very true.
I
Yeah,
think that
that's true. That's true. You shouldn't kill yourself. I know I did I think 110 hours last week. The turn of Bright Investor, getting that thing launched, and and that's the journey I'm starting on. Is maybe I shouldn't do this all the time, which is hard because, like you said earlier, Bunny, it's rewarded.
Yeah.
Well,
There's a lot of
and
things.
I think you're going to go through ebbs and flows. You'll go through times
Mhm.
where you're burning, both ends for a while, but you've got to
Oh, yeah.
make sure you take breaks. This is my biggest mistake was, I don't think working so hard. It was that I never took a break. And even when we went on vacation, it was always a working vacation. I never let
Yep.
myself clock out. I never let myself have decompress. And that was like, I've said this before, I've made a bunch of money. I'd give it all up to have my health that I, neglected when I was doing it all. So I want to see other people. You can still be successful with, like if you look at Greg at 5 or 6 o'clock, he works really hard all day, but at 5 or 6 o'clock, he's in the hot tub with a cocktail. He was really good at that. And I would be, hey, we've got this, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. And he'd say, tell me tomorrow. And I was like angry about that, but I'm jealous of that. That's the way that it should be. And now I'm learning how to do that a little late, but that's what I would love to, get across to people, is that there's got to be balance. My next tattoo is just going to be balance. Like, I need to remind myself I've never had it. Balance,
Nice.
reminding.
Yeah. So what time is it right now, Lisa? You said what time is it for you right now? Where you're at?
4:40.
Okay, so you got 20 minutes till 5 o'clock. Hot
Yeah.
tub and cocktail. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
The sponsor thing too, like people, we want to get to that level, or we think when we're newer, we want to get to that level because of the vacations and whatnot. But like I've been telling people since I've had an opportunity to observe a sponsor's lifestyle, several, but especially having a friendship with Lisa, that it's not really a sit on the beach thing. It's more for workaholics, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But you're not lightening your load when you have over 3,000 or 2,000 units. You're not lightening your load. The load doesn't really go to someone else. Yeah, there's an asset manager, but I've never seen owners that aren't daily involved either. So you don't just dump it off and like poof, at least from not what I've been witnessing anyway. So,
Yeah.
so people have to learn how to do differently, because I think up until this point, carrying a bigger load is just carrying more work. It's not delegating or having more people working for you or whatever. That's something people have to learn, I think.
Yeah, and adding on to having a little bit of balance, I've been able to work out in a week because I blew out my knee from
Dude.
working out too hard.
Godfather, come on.
It's not a
What were
simple
you-
week.
what were you
okay?
doing?
No complaining about a week.
It
Well,
was jujitsu.
Jujitsu.
Yeah,
that's
then
tough.
it would keep popping over and over again, and now it just popped once and hasn't healed.
Are you okay? Are you feeling okay? My guy,
I
talk
can
to
walk.
me.
I can walk now.
Yes.
Yeah,
You gotta get you
I
loosened
need to
up,
add
man.
stretching. That's the balance I
Gotta.
need.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, back in college, we had a
Yoga.
adult. You ever heard of adult foosball? It's when they have like a soccer, like two soccer nets, and they have like, they tape your hands to these rods, and you're like the actual
Oh my
foosball
gosh,
players of
yeah.
life-size foosball.
Oh my
No,
That
but I
sounds
God.
awesome.
it's awesome. I was the goalie at one point, and I was going for my hands are to duct tape to a rod, so I can't move them. Ball's going to the top right. I pivot and I dislocate my knee, going to
Oh.
block the ball, pop it back in.
That doesn't sound
Uh,
awson.
that was not great, but no,
Sounds
but it's fun when I
dangerous.
tell people that I dislocated my knee playing foosball, so they know I'm really, really intense. I go hard,
That's
Competitive
but man,
foosball.
yeah, but watch your knees, man. Watch your
badminton,
knees.
competitive badminton.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I'll move on to next question for Lisa. What mindset did you need to have in order to move your family across country with no money, no family, and no friends to pursue your dream of becoming a successful real estate investor?
Well, I mean, mindset, like we've been talking about, mindset's everything in this business, but in every business, or actually mindset is everything in life, right? Without the right mindset, an abundance mindset, the challenges will seem impossible to overcome, and consequently, many times they'll be impossible. However, if you have a mindset of we will do whatever it takes, we will never quit no matter what, then it's just it becomes a matter of when will you reach your success, not if. So to tell my story real quick, and we were realtors in Arizona in the early 2000s and did well until the market crashed in 2007. And right around the same time, I heard an advertisement for David Lindahl. Long story short, because I know everybody knows my story, but we learned that North Carolina was a great emerging market. And after a long year of trying to find the right property to buy, with plenty of ups and downs, where anyone without the right mindset would have definitely quit. And that's a whole nother story. But we just kept pushing forward, and we pushed through the challenges and finally found a 23-unit apartment complex that we decided to buy, and we negotiated seller financing. However, the problem was the property was so small that it couldn't afford to pay property management. So we needed jobs because, as realtors, we pretty much were out of jobs. We decided to move our family across country. Our boys were 6 and 9, from Arizona to North Carolina, and start a property management company. I always say we were lucky because when the real estate market crashed, we had hit rock bottom. So let me repeat that. My mindset is we were lucky that we hit rock bottom. I mean, how many people say that? The reason I feel we were lucky is because if we were comfortable in, say, like $100,000 job, or, with a salary of $100,000, we would never have taken the leap and probably would still be in that job today. And I admit that back in 2009, at the time, I had trouble seeing ourselves as lucky. It was definitely kind of a nightmare, but we had faith in ourselves and each other and God. And even though I was scared to death, I have so much gratitude for my former self for believing and taking that leap. We had a bunch of debt and no money coming in, but we had a choice to make. We had gotten a taste of that self-employment, not having anybody to answer to. And we found ourselves with the choice to either go get jobs and work for someone else's dream, or take a risk and become property managers at the new complex. And we had no idea how to be property managers. I mean, none. What were we thinking? I can't even believe it, what we were thinking. And we were winging it. We made it up as we went along. But again, when you're not comfortable and you have nowhere else to go but up, the risk is really not as daunting as it seems. We knew we were capable people. I had worked in banking and he was in construction. Greg was in construction. And if we really got desperate, I was a waitress and he was a cook when we met, when we were 21. So, I mean, if I had to, I could go get a waitress job. He could go get a cook job.
Cute.
But the bottom line is we knew our kids would not starve. We knew we were not going to be homeless. We knew that we would figure it out. So we told our family and friends that we were just moving for 1 year. That made me feel better. That made them feel better. And that way, if things went horribly wrong, we could come back. But we ended up loving it and building a very successful business in North Carolina. And the boys, ended up doing great in school and made a bunch of friends. And that became our home. And then we would just come out and visit. And then eventually we moved our portfolio into South Carolina. And we were lucky that we were also lucky that we had each other, you know, since our mindset was we will do whatever we have to do to take care of our family. It really was a no-brainer. And yeah, it was scary, but we worked hard. Greg did maintenance and I collected rents, and I even knocked on doors for rent money and did my own evictions and learned way more about evictions than I ever wanted to. And we even did our own taxes. I mean, we had 12 LLCs at one time, and I was doing all my own taxes for like 10 years.
Oh.
We did that.
Absolutely not.
It was a
Absolutely
good.
not.
It took me. It was a nightmare. This is why I have medical issues. It took me 3 years to unravel all that to get the new
Yeah.
CPA to come and take all of those off of my shoulders, and that just happened finally in like 2020. I think was the year that it was all taken off of me. But
Wow.
Wow.
one thing
Yeah.
led to another, and our hard work finally paid off, and we ended up building relationships that helped us grow our business. You know, namely Ryan and Tyler were a huge one, to thousands of units, and ultimately financial freedom. And if it wasn't for our mindset, we would not be where we are today. Mindset truly, truly is everything. Everything that we went through comes down to mindset. We could have quit a million times. We had a million different excuses for it. Mindset truly is everything.
Courage. Like one word that just kind of stands out the whole time is courage. It takes courage.
And for
Well, it
me,
does, but what else would we have done? We were going to go.
Mhm.
yeah, responsibility is what comes up for me. Like you were all
Ooh.
responsibility. I talk about like the 4 levels of responsibility a
I
lot.
was just about to ask you that final question. Go ahead.
Good segue. Look at us transitioning without even getting prompted.
I'm
Ooh,
present
take it
this
away,
time
Bunny.
too, but no, but for real. And you know, Fia touched base on this earlier when she was talking about, you know, victim mindset. And for me, just like me, my story, I was in a victim mindset growing up because that's what was modeled for me. If I was a victim, then I was right and I was good and I wasn't bad and you couldn't tell me anything. And it was a very unhappy mindset because all my happiness and peace was outside of me. It was because I needed to get somebody to acknowledge it or apologize, right? So the 4 levels of responsibility is level 1 is that's where you transfer responsibility. That's a victim mindset. Nothing is your fault. Nothing, you are not responsible for anything. You want to push blame on someone else. There's no growth in this level at all. And you're very comfortable here because you don't have any responsibility. And it's also called unconscious incompetence or the victim mindset. And a lot of people are in this state and they live in this state, and you come across them all the time, you know, out in daily life. The level 2 is acknowledging responsibility. Like you can see that you have some responsibility in your life and your circumstances. You see that, you know, you might not like your job. You see that you're there, but you know, you might not actually accept responsibility for shifting, right? But you kind of see that you have some power in your life, right? And this is conscious incompetence. So you're acknowledging, but you're still not taking any or being responsible. Level 3 is accepting responsibility. And this is where a lot of people who have done a lot of work will be in. They will be responsible for the things that are occurring in their life, the things that they are creating in their life, the way they show up, their relationships, their jobs, their careers. This is where growth happens. This is powerful. This is where life is happening through me. This is when you acknowledge that you are having a direct impact in your results of your life. This is where Lisa was when she was like, look, we get to move across the country. This is going to be uncomfortable, but she was being conscious in her competence. And 4 is mastering responsibility. And some of the yogis and the gurus and people who have done a lot of work will teeter between 3 and 4. And 4 is that life happens through me, for me. I am source and I am the creator of my experience. Everything is neutral. And a lot of no growth actually happens in this space either, because you become so neutral to everything that every experience that you experience, you understand that you've created that. You'll find the reasons and you surrender to that. It's universal consciousness. And this level of consciousness and this level of responsibility is ultimate because everything is through me, for me. So when I'm coaching people and they show up in victim of like being late and they want to blame traffic, or they want to blame their phone being dead, or they want to blame the results on their partners or things like that. Well, what level of responsibility are you showing up in right now? Are you in 1, 2, 3, 4? And ask, okay, well, what's in the gap of you shifting your responsibility? And there's a lot of traumas and there's a lot of things that we've gone through, or where we get to grow into and pass the sea of, the fear of responsibility. So how do we got to
Thank
be,
you.
what level of responsibility do we need to shift into to source those mega deals and to have those assets that are in our vision? Powerful stuff. Thanks for asking the questions, Adam.
Yep. Inspiring. I'll turn that into a clip.
Oh my gosh.
I
Riveting.
like Tony Robbins. This was really a game changer for me. I like how he puts it. It's not like you take responsibility for your life. It's taking radical responsibility for your life. And my life didn't start to change until that was the case for me, which, I care about younger people because I didn't learn that until much later in my life. I don't want my kids in their 40s then shifting out of victim mode or whatever. You know what I mean? I try to just share what I learn. You can't make people change either. It doesn't matter if they're 20 or 50 or whatever. They're at where they're at in their journey. And you can support people and everything. You can't make people change, but it's just us taking radical responsibility for our lives.
Yeah. And then, so
Oh.
my neuro-linguistic programming is coming up. You can't take something you already are. You got to take ownership, got to take leadership, you got to take responsibility. You can't take what you already are, because we are all 100% responsible for our results every day, our lives, our actions, our emotions, our behavior, how we react to the world. But it's even in those phrases of taking that, it's still in victim. And it's such a huge shift, because just like you're saying, I was in my late 30s before I got to shift from that and got to learn powerful ways of being and being responsible. So words have power, and they affect our mindset, our emotions. Joe Dispenza talks about the mind and the emotions, and it all starts with words.
To paraphrase JFK, ask not your life can do for you, but what you can do for your life. Thank you. God bless America.
That's pretty good.
That's a pretty good.
Right? Yeah. I thought that was decent. Thank you.
That's my favorite. If we're putting out to other people, as far as teachers go and authors and things like that, if you have had a lot of childhood trauma, I think he's the best teacher out there to change. He really is. His stuff is very powerful if you actually practice it, not just read it and kind of.
Who were you saying?
Joe Dispenza.
Oh yeah, I loved him. Breaking the Habit of Being You, and yeah, all it's great.
Becoming Supernatural
Yes,
is a really
I love
powerful book.
that book.
There's a lot of good books and podcasts and speeches and people getting dropped in this one
Right.
episode today. God, look at that value. Ooh, it's emanating off of us. A lot of gratitude for all the knowledge we're bringing, right?
Gratitude. You got it.
Grateful for all the teachers that have come before us that have impacted our journeys, and hopefully the people who are listening, or not hopefully, I know that the people listening have found and received some value from what we've said today.
As newer people in the industry too, I can honestly say, looking back, that's when I had the funnest time. So don't blow it. Don't blow it. Like, I don't know how Donato feels, but honestly, I looked forward, and not saying I don't now, but we have more responsibility now. Like at the time, we're all working towards a goal together. I loved meeting with the team. Like it was the best part of my week. It was super fun, and then you get your first deal, and it changes everything. Not that you can't still have fun, but when everyone wants to blow past that initial, stage and just get your deal, just know that that's the time you're going to have the funnest. So get to know your team, enjoy it, build your processes, have a fun time. I mean, that was the funnest time. It really was.
Gotta enjoy the journey.
And don't
Okay.
shy away
Every-
from
yeah.
responsibility. That for me,
Mhm.
responsibility is freedom. I used to have like this negative energy towards that word responsibility, right? That it was just a really heavy word. And I'm sitting here trying to think, is obligations a word? I was thinking of like the things that we're doing in our roles on our team. But for me, responsibility it leads to freedom because it's
Also,
no longer outside of you.
Jocko Willink has some great books on responsibility too.
He trains similar in the same concepts from what I've been hearing. I haven't really studied him, but from the
Neither.
quotes and things I've heard, it's very similar. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna move on to trivia time now.
Bring it on, Godfather. What you got?
Moving on to the commercial multifamily Lions Den trivia time.
Let's do it.
This is the thriller, so I'm doing the lion.
I knew what you were doing.
According to bankrate.com, as of the recording of this episode, April 1st,
Ooh.
2023, based on assets held at the time of insolvency, which means bankruptcy, what is the largest U.S. bank failure to date?
Oh, is it Lehman?
Wait, what's
Except
the
for Lehman.
question?
Lehman
I'm
doesn't count on
confused.
that.
That
It-
Silicon
okay.
Valley one
Outside
that
of
just
Lehman.
happened. That's
I was just gonna
SVB
say-
was number 2. Frontier, I think, was number 3. Well, the Frontier didn't actually happen. I think Frontier got bailed out. And Lehman, you're saying Lehman doesn't count? Oh, it must have been it must have been early 30s, the Great Depression. I almost
Lehman was
guarantee
the
it's gonna be some.
highest one, but it's not counting in.
Oh, okay. Okay, it's gonna. I bet it's gonna be some 1930s Great Depression era bank failure, like an old bank. That's what I can't. I'm not gonna have a name for it. I'm gonna bet that's the era we're looking at here. Maybe like I don't know.
I
I'm
have
just
no
taking old
answer.
like I'll say like a regal old sounding name like Whitestone Banking and Bros, something like that. I don't know,
Bank of
something like that.
America. I don't know.
Yeah.
Washington Mutual.
Boom, there you go. It's something. I bet you it's something old like that.
He said old. Oh my god, I remember
Okay.
that. What are you talking about?
No, old like old like 1930s. Sorry, 1930s. Like
Oh my God. Like my son says, Mom, like way back in the olden days, back in the 19s. I was
Okay, so the answer was Washington Mutual,
Oh my gosh,
Oh.
somebody got it right on
Whoa.
accident.
which
That's
was in
awesome.
2008 also. Lehman Brothers
okay.
didn't count for a lot of charts for some reason, but if you are counting Lehman Brothers, then it was above Washington.
Okay,
Right on.
nicely
that's
done,
great.
Bunny.
Yeah.
Nicely done.
Did you look it up?
Oh my god.
I was gonna say I saw her look it up.
I was like,
Oh,
over
geez.
here.
Oh dang. Well, I'm on my
Second.
phone with the power
Uh,
on, so I couldn't do that. I couldn't do it.
I'm moving. I'm here pulling organic information. I'm taking responsibility for my
know.
failure.
Yeah.
I saw her. No, you
Yeah.
were fantastic. And I was like, all right, I gotta look this up real quick. I wasn't
Yeah.
gonna let you guys think I
So-
knew that.
They had $307 billion in assets held at the time of insolvency, and then it was
Oh.
sold to JP Morgan.
Jeez.
Did anybody actually get their money back?
I wonder how much their funds deposited were over the FDIC's insurance limit. I mean,
That's what scares me right now.
yeah. Well, SVB, right? Well, it's like 90, was it 94%? Or maybe it's a little bit lower than that. But like high
209
80s.
billion. 209 billion.
Yeah. Investors who are looking to make up ground since 2008, looking to, as tech continues to bolster itself, the entire tech industry, you have low interest rate companies that can just bank on high growth, ultra fast and high growth over the last decade, shooting valuations from tens of billions to hundreds of billions of dollars that didn't have to show a profit for 5 years. They could just take on more debt and push their, our IPO will help us out, and we'll get profitable year 10, year 11, and all of a sudden interest rates climb up, and all of a sudden, oh no, my dog washing stations on wheels that only takes 3 types of cryptocurrency business isn't doing great anymore because I don't have 0% interest loans and I have $2 billion in debt. When money's easy, money's cheap, and money's free, everything can try everything. But now we have, it's not the case anymore. So you want to get some loans, you want to take the asset down, you really have a solid business plan. And those people who banked on easy money, are feeling the pain of that.
Yeah, and even bonds aren't always that safe because one of the main reasons SVB failed was because of the bonds. they had
Ultra
that lower
safe,
value.
ultra safe government bonds. Yeah. Just, hey, you gotta watch out for it. Anything that's interest rate susceptible, gotta watch out.
Yeah. And then I'll move on to the second question. And for that one, I'll give it to Donato because he didn't cheat.
Wonder how much of this you're gonna edit out of.
Right, because it's like an hour and a half long episode.
That's definitely a long one. According to commercialedge.com, as of March 21st, 2023, the office real estate space is suffering many challenges, including a lack of demand due to the pandemic, resulting in remote and hybrid work becoming much more common. What is the national vacancy rate for office space?
Oh,
That's a great
I would say
question.
25%.
I was just gonna say 25%.
25% vacancy rate.
I'll say
Average.
27.
35.
27.
I was high. I said 80, and I think I was doing it in the opposite. So I think I
Oh,
might.
occupancy, yeah.
Yeah.
Benny might be right. It
that
might be
before.
closer. It might be closer to 20.
16.5%.
Yeah, okay. It's not as bad as I thought.
That's pretty close.
Bunny probably
That's
won,
not
right?
terrible.
What'd you say, Pia?
Yeah.
35.
Oh, you were high.
Oh, no.
Okay.
I always
No,
go
it's-
high.
But it is interesting, you have so many people who are, oh my gosh, the world's coming crashing down. Industrial and commercial spaces are just being absolutely gutted, and the vacancy rate's 15%. They're 85% occupied. Like, oh, if your buildings are in that much dire straits at just a 15% vacancy rate, why are you operating it the way? Why did you buy it then? Why are your margins that close? Makes you wonder what their operating finances look like.
Yeah, it's worse than
Oh.
any of the other real estate sectors, but it's definitely not that bad. You guys all predicted a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to be fair, I was only 4% off. So
I think you had the closest. And I
Yeah.
wonder if maybe like if I had a commercial building that had office space that I couldn't rent, I would probably find a different use for it. So I
right.
wonder
Mhm.
if like the use is maybe changing and that skews numbers as well. I
Mhm.
wouldn't just leave it vacant because I can't find, someone who needs office space.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Okay.
Creative. Get creative with that. What can you put in that space?
Some offices in or some of the lofts in LA offices many years ago, like in the 30s, basically, and they've all been converted into lofts, which are $3,000, $3,500 a month for a no bedroom. Well, I know my friend lives in one right in the middle of downtown LA. One bedroom is like $5,000. But yeah, there were,
Oh,
as you could tell, there's like a crack under, like a gap under the door, basically.
Yeah. I used to have one of
Oh.
those like styrofoam. It was like a styrofoam thing. It was styrofoam and styrofoam,
Right.
like a sheet. And it had the door for the draft when I lived in San Diego for that too. Cause it was, yeah, you have like, sorry, TMI.
no,
You wanna
$5,000 for
do
a
the
1-bedroom
outro since
apartment.
we're like,
Oh, that hurts my soul.
Question number 3.
oh, you have a
Or-
lot of editing to do. I thought we were done.
This is the last question. According to a survey conducted by apartments.com in 2020, what percentage of renters say they own a pet?
30%.
50 or
Ten.
The single family and multifamily.
Yeah,
Apartment.
any renters, anyone who's renting.
Ooh,
I'm gonna stick with 50.
50 sounds like a good number. I'm gonna stick it at about 55.
I went low because you said say they have one. A lot of people
Yeah.
don't say they have one,
The
but they have
smart
one.
one over
Oh,
here.
good catch. I'm
Smart
dropping mine to
one, yeah.
45. I dropped
Maybe you're
to
thinking into
45.
can't
it a little
change.
bit too much.
No change backs. No
No, fine. I'll stick at
I'll
55.
stick
Yeah, that's a good point.
commit.
I'm
I don't have a
probably
pet,
I'm
it's
always
just
way off, so I'm sure I'm not right.
I'll stay 55.
The answer is 75%.
Holy.
I
That's
had a
way off.
feeling it is such a
Wow.
big deal now. Look at like there's emotional support and just all like
Mm.
pets are a really much
Yeah.
bigger deal,
Can you edit my answer out? Because now I feel really stupid.
And that was a
75%.
yes, and that's a significant spike from only 43% a year prior.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they were people were
Oh.
stuck in their house, so it was like,
And they
depression.
couldn't be around people, so they had to get animals.
I'm sitting there thinking about all the deals I'm underwriting, and I'm looking at all these, P&Ls, and I'm looking at how many people at the rent rolls and how many people are actually paying pet rent. It is not usually over 40%.
That's kind of what I was thinking is you don't
And-
really see it all that much, but that's
Yeah.
because a lot of the sellers and one of the reasons we're buying the property is the bad management. And bad management overlooks those sort of things because you have to go and audit people. People lie. And
Mm.
or
yeah.
they'll get a pet and they don't come in and say, "Hey, I got a pet because I want to pay $400."
I don't want to pay more.
rent." They
Uh-huh.
don't do that. I didn't do it when I
No.
was a renter
Right.
either. So,
Honesty. Thank you.
Honest-
Responsibility.
honesty, so-
That's
so
level 4
right.
responsibility
So-
right there.
so people don't admit to it, and that's why you don't really see
Mhm.
it very
And-
often.
And service animals don't count as pets in all realness
Right.
and legalities. They don't pay pet rents for service animals. It's a totally
Right.
different verbiage. No
Yep.
pet rent, no pet deposit.
Or
And
or
that's why a lot of
service
people
animals.
that's why a lot of people will, get phony papers or claim
Yes,
they
it is,
are.
yeah.
And there's, it's really unfortunate for the real people who actually need them,
Mhm.
because then it
Yeah,
makes a lot of landlords just say no pets, no animals.
Yep.
Thank you for listening to the Commercial Multifamily Lions Den podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, make sure to leave us a like, subscribe, and share with anyone you think can gain value from today's episode. What obstacles are you facing? Let us know in the comment section below, and we'll get to it in a future episode. If you're interested in passively investing with us, you can go to am-multifamily.com, or you can email FIA at am-multifamily.com. Those links will be in the show description, along with the Lions Den Facebook page and website. Thank you, and have a roaring day.